Hey everybody, welcome back. We promised you a second edition of the ET discussion because there's just so much. There's probably more than just 2 episodes, but we want to keep going. It's fascinating stuff, and we have a few more topics relative to the ETs that we want to cover. So thank you again for spending your next hour with us or so. Just for fun, we hid a few little ETs around the set. See if you can find them.
And I just realized there's another one off of Samantha's shoulder.
Don't give anybody a clue.
It's very subtle.
If you can find them, write in the comments.
It's not an ET, but it might be a ship.
You're like freaking me out, dude.
Oh, that, yeah.
So look all the way.
The musical instrument.
Right above, yeah. My handpan.
That way.
That's right.
I'm looking over there.
So there is a handpan over there that kind of looks like an ET ship, but we hit a few ETs around too. So if you find them, comment in the comment section, along with whatever topics you want to hear us talk about next. But last time I did promise a funny story about our ET, the Zeta, that is our friend now. I mean, I've talked to him so much, I really feel like he's my friend.
Yeah.
Does he have a first name? Or is he just my Zeta?
Just Zeta.
He said to call him my Zeta.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that he'll know who we're calling him.
There's a whole song parody like My Sharona, my Zeta.
Yeah.
And I just got to figure it out.
So when we were out in Eureka Springs for vacation one time, we came across this, I don't know, this store that had a ton of those, like metal chickens, those yard ornament type things. Well, they had a Zeta. It was about this tall. They had a Zeta. We were driving by, and I was like, we have got to get that and bring it home. Yep. So we stopped, and we picked up the Zeta. We brought it home, and it's out here. This treehouse is over our garage. So there's some stairs that lead up. And in the corner of the stairs there, we have a little Zeta guy.
And he greets everyone on their way up to the treehouse.
Yeah. And so at one point when we were talking to the Zeta, I asked him, I said, we have that little Zeta statue of you out on our stairs. He's like, yeah. I said, do you guys at your house have like little human statues? And he's like, no. And then there was another time that I asked him, I said,
that was a weird question.
I never see you guys. How come I don't see you guys? He goes, do you ever look up when you're outside? Do you look up? I'm like, well, you kind of got a point. I don't really look up as much as I should, I guess. Anyway, he's a trip. Yep. He's fun. But anyway, we wanted to talk more about the higher level kind of ET beings and what do we mean by starseed and how does that relate to ETs and all of that. And
what do you mean by higher level ETs?
Well, like I mentioned last time, there are different dimensions. And our Zeta, he is in a physical form for us. Okay. Well, I mean, we haven't seen him that way, but he is. He exists that way in a ship. And that's 5th dimensional. He's 5th dimensional.
Okay.
Yep, still takes physical form. Once
we get into roughly 7th dimensional and above, they're mostly energetic beings.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Now, what's interesting is I told you I'm doing this book, so I've talked to all of them and I've asked all these questions because it's fascinating to me. But I was like, well, if we're talking to a 10th dimensional Leadin, for example, who are lion-headed beings that look human but have a lion-type head, how is it that all of us in the world know what a Leadin looks like? Like, how would we know that if you don't take physical form? Mm-hmm. And they explain that when they came into being, they created an energetic, they called it what do they call that? A resonance?
Mm-hmm,
There's an energetic resonance that we are tapping into. So it's kind of like a mirage type of thing. And so they created that so that our human brain has a frame of reference for what they look like.
We can take that vibration, then overlay the image of what we're perceiving on top of it. And so
that frequency or that vibration is going to look the same for everybody in the...
Is that what similar to when, we're casting out for mediumship and you feel the energy of the person come in and they're in energetic form and you're asking them to fill in the blank so you can see them physically? Is it any similarity?
I wonder. I bet that... I mean, it's still an energetic frequency, right?
It may not be as sophisticated or whatever,
for myself, I don't know. Because, when I and it's not frequent that I get a full-on image of someone that's transitioned. They'll give me bits and pieces, like putting a puzzle together, and I'll get maybe a left eye or a right shoulder or whatever, and so I have to kind of fill in the pieces from there, and it's usually spot on. it's just, I don't think it's the same way. This is,
It felt different. Or the way it was coming across was
it's a
different?
little
Okay.
bit different because, like, I can go into meditation and ask to connect with the Leadins, and I'll tap into the vibration first. It'll settle in, and then I'll get. It is that's why I like to say overlay. It's like this full-on picture begins to develop.
It's not just here's the little pieces.
Right. It's
fully
like somebody
intact.
just took a picture, a snapshot of them, and brought it down into my vision field,
Okay, that's different.
and so then it resonates right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's interesting. But the 12, we wanted to clear up the difference between a hybridized being and one of the 12 original starseed
Yep.
clusters. So for the purposes of the book, the original 12 that started our galaxy, that created our galaxy, I can't go by memory, so I wrote them down, but we have Arcturian, Andromedan, and Agarthan, the Draconian, Hadarian, which are from Beta Centauri. They're not so famous, I guess.
You're right.
The Lyrans, the Martians, Orion, Pleiadian, Polarian, Sirian, and Venusian. Those are the 12 that originally created our galaxy, the 12 source clusters. Now, anything outside of those 12 is going to be a hybrid. So at the point that all of that came into existence, it was nothing but energy.
Right.
And they were energetically creating their solar system or their planetary system or their, like Mars, their planet, wherever they were going to
Colonize.
habitate.
Yeah.
I was about to say hang out.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's exactly.
But they were
right.
still just energy. And so those 12 started to hybridize or mingle their energies in an energetic fashion and create other beings, which were still energetic at that point. And then so on and so on. And they continued this hybridization process. But the whole point of the galaxy and the hybridization to begin with was to create the human. The human was the goal of our galaxy.
Okay.
We are imbued with 12 strands of DNA, one for each of those 12 clusters. But when we incarnate as part of our soul contract, when we write all of the little details of our contract, we agree to kind of align with 2 of the clusters more than the others. Even though we have all 12, we have 2 strands of DNA. One is your primary galactic alignment, which means the one that you're currently working with. For in my case, it's a Lyran.
Yeah.
I work with the Lyrans. And then the other strand of your DNA is your original source cluster, which again doesn't mean that's where your soul originated. It just means that that's another strand that you decided to pick, and you have characteristics of it, but the primary alignment is the one you're primarily working with at that time in your life. So my other one is Pleiadian. And yours, for example, is Sirian primary and Pleiadian original source cluster. Did we ever channel yours?
Yeah, I know Pleiadian is the primary. The secondary, my understanding is Sirian.
Yeah, cool. So you two are backwards of each other. That's
Interesting. Interesting. You know, and I guess maybe to touch on it and bring it up, and it's I think there might be some confusion in that too, and this whole aspect and just from what I've learned from the channelings that we've taken place, since I don't remember much, and Allison has kind of allowed me behind the scenes of what has been channeled. So as far as obviously for the book, but we talk about our soul and where our soul comes from and the source and all of this stuff. But apparently there is, it's not to say that it's confusing, but there's a lot of depth to this understanding of source and where's source and the source of source and the source of source of
Which
source.
I don't want to get into in this episode.
But I guess
Yeah.
that would be something to just touch the wave top on that. So, there is some context, because you did bring up soul, and I want to make sure people aren't, getting confused here. I want to make sure they, have some context behind it. I know it might be a little bit of a struggle, but
I know, I'm
Yeah.
going, how do you simplify this?
So
Yeah.
apparently there are multi-levels to source, because source essentially is a node in this big quantum field.
Yeah.
Yes, and so there is a source for Earth, which is what we might equate to heaven or where we go when we transition. So any human incarnation, when you transition, you go to that source point. and that is the source point for Earth.
Earth itself.
But then we have the 12 source clusters. They are source themselves. They're also source nodes. And there's a source above them that basically, when this galaxy was going to be created, there was a call that went out. Hey, I need some energies that want to help me create this galaxy, essentially. And so they called in 12 source clusters, 12 starseed clusters. Now, they tell me that they could have called in 6. They could have called in 36. But with 12 and with the numbers of hybridization available to them with, what do they call that in math? How many things you can create out of 12, right?
Exponential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a perfect number for this galaxy to make it not too big and not too small. So that's kind of touching on source.
I think that's perfect. I just wanted to make sure that people had a
Right. But
little
then we
primer
have
into
lots of other ET friends, and you guys probably have been in connection with some of them. Blue avians and mantis beings and the Zeta that we talked about, and reptilians, and what are some other ones? Those would be considered hybridized
Okay.
because they're not the 12. But
Dolphins aren't a part of
they
that,
were
are they?
mingled.
People say something about dolphins and whales, and I know that gets thrown in, or maybe it's a part of
Well, they did
embracing.
they have come from other star systems, like the Orions.
Okay. But you wouldn't refer to them as being
not a hybridized being.
okay.
No, not in the same way.
Okay.
Not in the same way.
Mermaids, I think, are part of that. I think that was some of the information that may have come through.
A hybridized being.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They were created by a combination of a couple. Right. So anyway, now that you have a foundation of kind of what the 12 original starseed clusters are, and that's when we say, I know I'm a starseed. Why do you know you're a starseed? Because I have an alignment with these 12, one of these 12 or some of these 12. But really, in essence, we're all starseed. Every human is, because every human has the 12 strands of DNA. And this galaxy.
And we're not going to go into that. Or
Well,
are
I was
we?
just going to ask how deep do you want to go into any of the activation of DNA, or what's the purpose of the DNA, and can more of it be activated, or will it all be activated? That kind of thing.
Yeah, good point. So at the point of our ascension, when this wave of energy comes across the planet and we ascend from 3 and 4 up into 5D, 5 dimension, and we probably need a whole episode for that. But anyway, Earth is evolving, humanity is evolving. And when we evolve at that point, all 12 strands are going to be lit up so that we have an awareness of who we are and what we are and how we're connected to everything. They won't stay active. It'll just be a split second that they'll kind of all turn on and then taper back again, because we can't have all 12 fully activated while we're in the human body, or we would kind of explode. There's no need to be in a physical body
sane.
if all 12 are activated, because then you're kind of at that source point anyway.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, well, as we evolve, more strands will be available to us in greater degrees, not fully, but in greater degrees, so that you can connect with those 12, any of the 12, and bring in their gifts, the information, connect with them in any way you want.
That's going to be really fascinating.
It is going to be fun. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about disclosure and what that looks like.
That's a kind of a deep subject.
We touched on it in the first one.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can look back at some of the aspects of what has taken place already in our past, of small bits of disclosure. Some of you might be familiar with Valiant Thor, and I believe.
Oh yeah, that's a good story.
Yeah,
If you don't know Valiant Thor,
Yeah.
you need to Google search that.
and go
Do you
down
know
that
one?
go down that rabbit hole.
You had told me about that, and what was interesting is my son was like, "You have to watch American Horror Story." I don't know if you guys had heard about
No.
this.
I've heard it. I haven't watched it.
So not this most recent one, the year before. They did a whole thing on Valiant Thor about it started off with Eisenhower and how he makes this deal with the
Yes.
aliens, and and how they're working on this hybridization project and
Yep.
all this kind of stuff going on. And it goes from like Eisenhower to Nixon. It was a fascinating way to portray it, and I think that there's essence
But
of
were they?
kind of truth.
It was supposed to be fiction.
Yeah.
Supposedly fiction.
Yeah,
Oh,
but it is
Yeah.
pretty much right on. And the people they have playing the characters are even talking, playing Eisenhower is so Eisenhower-ish. Like
Yeah.
you just kind of buy into the whole thing. But it was really super fascinating. I thought it was just an interesting representation, and the fact
Oh my
they were
gosh.
willing to take it on.
That's
it must have
awesome.
been a story that really fascinated them. So it is based off of Valiant Thor. Yes.
That's cool. So
Yeah.
Valiant Thor basically was a Venusian, and he came into a human body, literally landed, I think, on the Pentagon lawn or something,
Or the White House lawn, yeah.
and stayed for 3 years working in a human body with the government and trying to help. And look where it got us, because that was in was that in the 60s, maybe 70s? I don't remember. 50s, 60s, 70s, somewhere in that time
Forgive
frame.
our lack of history, sorry.
But like we said, who was it? Were you mentioning it last time in a last episode about our governments don't want? Yeah, that's what they told you.
Yeah, disclosure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
they want to maintain control about
Yeah.
know how these things are, how all of this is occurring, how this is going to come out.
Right.
And
But it's
to empower
interesting, though.
themselves.
I mean, you know, some people say, well, disclosure's not happening or it won't happen. If you broaden that spectrum or you open your field of view up a little bit, I mean, you look at some of the movies that have come out over the ages. Yes, they might portray aliens as kind of a negative, you know, aspect, or they're here to, you know, snatch our bodies up, you know, that kind of thing. But in reality, it in itself is a kind of a peer behind the curtain, right?
It is.
It's showing us that
Yeah.
where from a psychic's or a you know, an energetic worker's perspective, is it imagination, or are we actually getting that information from
Where's it
somewhere?
coming from?
Where's it coming from?
The writers of Star Trek, where are they getting
Where
that
is
stuff,
that
right?
coming from? Right.
Yeah, because so much of that is now real
Yeah.
and exists.
Right.
And
Exactly.
So one would have
So
to say maybe these
it's being
artists are
tapped
channeled.
in and-
they're
yeah.
channeled.
Yeah. So what reality point? What point in that multidimensional space of Interstellar are they opening that little doorway and peering in and going, "Oh, that'll be an interesting episode."
So I totally can't remember the Einstein quote, but I remember him referencing, you know, how there's nothing new thought up. It's just
Recycled.
reaching- Yeah.
yeah.
And, I thought, wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's all out there. And what is it Bashar calls us? The Masters of Limitation. Have you heard that? Like there's
No.
there's actually a book that was channeled via Darylenko with Bashar called The Masters of Limitation, because the only way we can exist in these
True,
bodies
right.
is to
Yeah.
cut off all of that knowledge
Yeah.
so that we can have the wonderful, you know, sense of surprise and what will happen next. And so
Right.
just know you asked for it when you came here, that you wanted that surprise and that excitement and not knowing everything.
Right.
Kind of like the DNA strands. You
Right.
can't have it all turned on, or what's the point of this?
Correct.
Right.
Exactly.
What's
Yeah,
the point
exactly.
of this existence? So as far as disclosure, how would you framework disclosure? What would be the ultimate purpose of disclosure?
Yeah. Good question.
Well, from the ET perspective, from my understanding and hearing them speak about it, it's that humanity was the purpose of the galaxy, and they want us to realize the significance of humans in the galaxy, our role within the galaxy, how they are our brethren, and how we're all connected. I mean, they're our ancestors, and they want us to know that. It's been hidden for too long. It's time. They said that humanity was always destined to awaken into that. But their time frame for us doing that organically was, they said, in the 3000s, and here we are in 2023. So we have evolved such that they can then amplify. They have to bring in energy to amplify our awakening so that
Which
it's all
is through
balanced
the-
and harmony
That's the solar
through the
flares.
sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trying to bring it all around to make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
And then when we evolve, then they bring in energy, and then we evolve some more, and they bring in energy, and they keep it balanced, so that we're speeding up our own awakening. And so disclosures are just a natural part of that, because that's what awakening is awakening into the reality, the real reality of who we are, how we're all connected.
So wait, I had a question then. What was the purpose of us not having that reality, not having that awareness? What's the purpose?
To have this 3D experience, you mean?
Yeah, I mean,
So the 3D experience is always going to be available. So current planet and all of the people on the planet are evolving, but the 3D planet's not going anywhere. There will still be people incarnating on Earth.
Well, meaning why
for the polarity?
Why did they originally shut us off from that awareness? Why have we had 2,000 plus years of not knowing?
Well, it's been millions of years.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Again, there's that whole.
Well, there's so many layers all in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Millions of years.
But I
think for the reason that you mentioned. Because this is a unique planet where you have physicality and you have certain experiences that you cannot have anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So if you know, you already came from that. So why would you come and play in this game knowing where you came from? So the point of this game is to have that veil.
Mm-hmm. I just thought there was something about that our souls had to evolve too. They had to, there was you can't hand over the keys to the kingdom to an immature soul or it could be disastrous. So there's a point at which we had to grow and, kind of temper and, mature.
The only thing I would disagree with is that we don't have to do anything. We volunteer to come down here, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, there's a lot of soul growth, which is why we do it over and over and incarnate over and over. Mm-hmm. And I think they told me I had over 2,500 lives or something. So I guess I was a slow learner. But, I mean...
But, I mean, and you talk about that. It's the soul's growth. And over time, we speak of millions of years in this time frame of humanity. How much of that existence was, intermingled with ETs? A lot of it, right? Was, and that extent of I think for some, we look at. I could go down so many different tangents with this.
I know. That's why we needed a second episode.
Yeah, where are you going with that? I'm thinking Graham Hancock.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You look at some of the mega structures that are built. Mm-hmm.
You're going to make me give away everything in the book.
No, I wanted you to touch on the surface of that. I'm not doing this to tease the book because it is interesting topics. This is the thing.
There's so much in the book that we are not aware of. There's incredible information that I have not heard anywhere. Mm-hmm. And again, this is not from an ego space at all, but my understanding as I tapped into that for a reason. That was part of my contract. And so it's time, they said, for all of this information to come out. But I don't want to give too much away that's in the book. But there is a new understanding in the book about the pyramids and all of that and what their purpose is. And it's not what we think it is.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's enough just to tease that.
Mm-hmm.
And then to move away from that, then, and I'll try to reframe my questioning to stay out of the book because that's it's cooked in there. It's cooked in there. All right,
because he doesn't know what I've channeled either.
No,
and he won't read the book either.
No, but that's why I asked the questions. No, this one I think I'll actually sit down.
Thank God for good friends who help me and edit and read my books and stuff because.
All right, so this whole aspect, I think, and going back to your question, about the soul's journey, the soul's growth, and all that, and this point of ascension that we're achieving. Well, if we've been intermingled with ETs all this time, why does, even though it's been the third dimension, why does it feel as if, say, from early 2000s or maybe late 90s, that it was a much denser 3D experience? You know what I mean? So now it feels more challenging. Like the veil was very dense. Now,
well, it's part of our overall awakening. They said, and again, this is interesting because I just literally this weekend wrote this Orion chapter,
another
chapter
book.
3, the Orion chapter, and they laid a bunch of stuff out on the table. They said that in the past 50 years or so, a little more than 50, they said 50, but it's probably closer to 70 when you consider in the 60s with the free love and all of that stuff, that we have sped up our evolution. We've just sped up our evolution way faster than. The problem with the 60s was that they weren't ready for it. The
consciousness. The
beings that are outside of our planet that have to moderate the energy of the planet for us to exist on, that has to be in balance with the evolution of humans. So as humans were turning on and evolving quickly, the amplitude of the information coming in from the sun wasn't enough to balance it, and it was getting off balance.
Okay.
So even though it seemed like a good thing that was happening, they had to kind of squash it, or
Okay.
we were going to be reset.
Okay.
Now, am I giving anything away by saying this? Just go, nope. But is the 60s when they were like, maybe we need to scrap this and start over again?
Yeah, there
because we
was.
were moving too fast. Mm-hmm. So they thought, the 12 races thought we were, 11 of the 12 races thought we were moving too fast at that time, that it was going to be out of balance. It wasn't that we were doing wrong. It's that...
And that's not a decision that they make. It's an energetic
okay.
Process.
period. It's just energy. And if the energy's not balanced, then the planet itself, the consciousness of the planet knows that it's time to reset and start over. And so, yeah, there was a
But I
time
thought
when
there was one
we were
race
in
that
jeopardy.
stepped in.
The Syrians,
Yeah, to kind of go, oh, no, let's balance this out a little bit. They're, it's going to be fine.
yeah, well, they apparently held an intervention.
Okay.
The Syrians wanted to save humanity and didn't want us to end up being reset and starting over again.
Okay.
Drunvalo Melchizedek, by the way, if you wanted to know more about that, Drunvalo Melchizedek
That's a mouthful.
wrote all about that.
We'll make sure we put that in the comments. Or
He's the one that
notes.
talked about that and talked about how the Syrians went to bat for us, and there was a energetic proposition brought up to a council, and they all decided that humanity was worth saving, so they did some sort of crazy intervention, and it worked, and so we're still here.
Okay.
But that's a whole nother thing. I don't know that I'm going to put that part in the book because it's just so much, and there's already so
Dense.
much in the book. The book is huge already.
And we're only, 3 chapters in?
I'm 3 in, and it's
Yeah.
big.
You
Dense.
can have a volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. Okay, so since we're talking about all this, where does the Galactic Federation come in? And are there is there other names for the Galactic Federation? It's still the Galactic Federation, but maybe people are referring to it differently. Or are there other collections that are in opposition to or working alongside Galactic Federation? Do you know anything about that? Or again, is that from the book?
I don't get into that in the book at all.
Okay.
I would just say there are tons of groups and councils and collectives
Okay.
made up of a variety of different beings, and it depends on the channel and who they're tapping into. I couldn't speak to the Galactic Federation. I mean, I know that they're out there. I know that people channel this Galactic Federation. There's Galactic Federation of Light and all these different federations. Federation of Light that blossomed. I mean, tons of them. I don't know if they're all the same. I have no idea, but I doubt they're all the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know because we don't tap
You
into
guys
them.
haven't channeled, and nobody's ever asked about that.
What was the? There was one
What's
that
the being that begins with an A? What's in there?
Arcturus?
Ashtar.
Ashtar.
Oh, yeah.
No, there was one that I
That's
thought.
what I was talking about.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ashtar. Yeah, Ashtar Command. But there was one that I woke up, and it wasn't that a Galactic Federation of crystalline something, crystalline beings?
Crystalline light or
Yeah.
Oh,
something
no,
like
that
that.
would make sense. That everyone have their own association.
Yeah, and that one literally came to me at like 4:00 in the morning, and it just was like loading. It was like a computer program loading. I finally had to get up, go in the bathroom, sit on the toilet, and talk text this information. It just started spewing.
It was fascinating.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's wow.
Yeah,
That was interesting.
and I think we call upon them one other time for some information, but
Yeah.
they haven't come back.
But
to
there's
me
just
like
so
that
many.
kind of-
There's
yeah.
so many groups, and they like to work together and collaborate and help humans and humanity. And so, yeah,
So it's not just the Galactic Federation as an umbrella, and that's all it is. And okay,
No, there's
well, because a
different
lot of people
groupings.
hear these things, and and not naming names, we were talking about earlier, how there's some people out there that are kind of poo-pooing some of the people's connections, and it's like, dude, why?
Yeah.
Why are you going to diss someone else? Because everyone's perception is their reality, their truth, and
That's
if
right.
it resonates with people,
That's right.
it resonates.
But again, this
you
is
know?
why discernment's so important. We did a
Exactly.
short.
Yeah.
These are not in order, so look for our short discussion on discernment, because discernment is hugely important at this time in history, because there is a lot of false information out there for a variety of reasons.
To mislead, distract, put
Yep.
fear in,
I mean,
control.
Yes, exactly.
Just to name a few.
I'm sure there will be some that will listen to beginning of part 1 or maybe the beginning of this, and it just will not resonate, and that's fine. I mean, that's discernment.
That's
is what we're
we
talking
want.
about.
We want you to use
vibrationally
Right.
you're not at that level, or it's not
for you.
important for you to have
Right.
that awareness right now.
Right.
It doesn't mean that there's not. So that's why I'm like, even though I haven't experienced some things, I hold the space that there's anything is possible. I don't get cynical about it, because
Right.
who am I to say? Because I keep having new experiences,
Right.
and you're just like, well, damned if that didn't just happen. And then you're just going, okay, so now I'm buying into this concept. It's 'cause
Another reality
you can't
point.
refute. Yeah. So it's more, the more that you expose yourself and use that discernment, but the more that you allow for the potential of everything to exist.
Yep.
Then the more that you follow this breadcrumb, your own personal breadcrumb, that could be totally different than your best friends or your mentors or whoever. You find your own way, because that's the construct you need to put these pieces together to do whatever it is you're supposed to be here doing.
Yep.
And it's the ultimate paradox,
judgment.
really. The ultimate paradox that all of these things can be true at the same time, because we are creating our own reality.
Yes.
And that's literal.
It's like,
so if you came in here to experience this contrast between good and evil, then you might be of the belief that there are lots of ETs out there that are fighting over control of Earth, because that narrative is out there, and that they're going to take over Earth, and there's people controlling our minds and AI and all of this sort of stuff. And that could be perfectly legit and accurate for you. It's not my perspective at all based on my experiences, but it could be for you because that's what you signed up to experience in this go round, right?
Well,
That's
because
right.
that's going to help your soul's growth.
Yeah,
for
for
whatever
whatever-
reason.
right,
yeah.
right.
But to me, that does feel lower base energy.
Yeah.
But that's where you are in your experience.
Right.
And who's to say that you're not at a higher level that of vibration, and then you decide, there's an area that I'm missing here. I'm going to go back and experience. I mean, I don't know. I don't write the rules. So, there's a possibility that that it's not
Right.
just everything's just going up, up, up. So
Because my experience is nothing but love. I mean, when I've channeled the 12, particularly the Hadarians, were so overwhelmingly loving. All of them were loving, and all of them stressed how important humanity is, how important humans are, how they're all working. Of course, there are a few factions, and they've said that aren't working in humanity's best interest, but the majority of them are, because this galaxy was created for us.
Well, and look at it this way, too, because you said your experience is nothing but love. So think about all the animal kingdoms that you guys have interviewed, and that's been nothing but love.
Right.
And yet, the wasp will sting you if he has to,
Right.
Right.
for their own, they're
Good
trying to
point.
protect themselves. It's not like they're trying to attack you.
Good point.
Yep.
And so there's all kinds of levels of experience, but it doesn't mean that it's not based in love.
Yep.
It's just
Correct. And that is fascinating. The meme where there's an elephant and there are like 5 blind people surrounding the elephant, and they're all holding onto a different body part. And none of them know it's an elephant because I've got the tail. Well, what is that? I think it's whatever.
Yeah.
I've got the trunk. So in other words, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Here we go back to that.
Right.
You know.
Here
And
we
it
are.
depends on your perspective. Are
Yeah.
you at
That's
the
the
rear of the elephant, or
tagline.
are you at the front of the elephant? It depends on your perspective. So like you said, I can look at the wasp and go, what a jerk, this wasp. I hate wasps. They hate humans. They're stinging us. Or you can rise up to a different level and see it from a different perspective. So there's always different perspectives. You can look at it at different angles, and that's all humanity is doing. Every single human is understanding this construct from their own unique perspective.
Yeah.
And so you cannot say that anybody's wrong or anybody's right. Everything is perfect for them.
Which is the beauty of this place.
It is.
I mean,
Yes.
that is, when you look at it like that, structurally speaking,
Yeah.
it makes it pretty damn fascinating.
To have a one construct that is perfect for everybody.
Yeah.
That everybody can get what they need.
Yeah.
Right?
That's crazy.
It is amazing. So we covered that. Let's see, what else did we want to cover?
So did we want to say a little bit more about, okay, so we talked about the 12 briefly. Are there any that are closer to us or further,
Actually,
does that even
yeah.
make a difference that they're closer to us rather than in other?
Well, we are made up of all, but some based on what the needs are of the planet. There are some where they aren't one of the 2 strands. So, for example, the Agarthans, which are the inner earth beings, and they're not just inner earth, they're inner every celestial body, in our galaxy.
I find that fascinating.
But there aren't any humans on the planet at this time that have the Agarthans as one of their 2 strands because it's
Oh.
not necessary. So whatever, I don't know, skills and abilities and energy, whatever energy frequency is needed on the planet at any given time, people will incarnate with those 2 strands so that's why right now you'll find tons of Arcturians, quite a few Andromedans, a lot of
Pleiadians.
Lyrans, Pleiadians are big time, Sirians, but you don't see very many Venusians. Polarians are almost unheard
Martians.
of. Martians too. And the Martians told us that the reason that they don't need to be one of our strands right now is because they are the closest of the 12 to humanity. They're the ones that actually kind of raised us, raised the original humans, and we were supposed to be raised on Mars.
Oh, were we? And then that planet went.
Well, then the Galactic Wars.
See, there were.
There were wars. There were, and we touch on that in the book.
Yep.
Okay.
We don't go.
So
in
we're
de-
not going to talk about
We don't
it
go
yet.
in depth. Like
They told us from the get-go they didn't want that to be the focus of the book. They wanted love to be the focus
Well,
of the
and
book.
that's history, depending on how you look at timelines in the present and now and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. But yeah.
I mean, it was a thing that happened, and they explain why and how it happens. But they didn't want that to be the primary focus. There's a lot of people out there. You can find channelers and YouTube videos about galactic wars and all of that stuff.
and use your discernment.
Yes. Yes.
Well, because some make great stories.
Yeah.
So Martians are, all 12 of these are all in the non-physical form. They're all in energy form, correct? And so Martians, are they existing on Mars? Are they existing within Mars?
there are still some in the center of Mars. When Mars became uninhabitable, because the galactic wars caused a shift in the axis points where Earth was not habitable, but it became habitable,
Okay.
and Mars became uninhabitable. So some of the Martians, if I recall correctly, went inside Mars. Some went to other places. Some came to Earth.
Okay, so they're kind of spread out now. Well, and are there a lot of these that are kind of spread out now, or
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
that are just totally staying in their one space? It's weird to think they're energy and they can be wherever they darn well please.
They will tell you
But-
they're everywhere all at once. What's that movie called? Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yeah,
That's what
everything
they say.
everywhere all at once.
They
yeah.
experience everything, everywhere, all at once. That's a good movie if you haven't watched it. You might need to watch
Yeah,
it more
I
than
wanna
once.
see that.
Yeah, it's a mind twist.
Oh, is
Yeah.
it?
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
But for
Like
example,
that.
the Andromedans, when all of the hybridization started to happen and they saw it getting skewed and that the humans were no longer the focus because it was getting out of control, they were like, we don't want anything to do with that. So they spun off into their own galaxy and created the Andromedan galaxy. So they're a sister galaxy to the Milky Way within our universe. But yeah, so
You know, I hope that as you're creating this book, that you're also like see figure 3-11 and that you have some kind of,
Reference document.
Yeah.
Some
I don't think I have any pictures, but I had to draw a picture when they were talking about source over source over source and the galaxy and the universe and the bubbles and all of this sort of stuff. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, you're going to, I think it needs to be illustrated.
a few field
Illustrated field guide.
Right there
Yes.
you go.
Illustrated field guide to ETs.
My favorite book, and I love how they did the movie, was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh right.
That is,
I never did read that one.
oh my God, my all-time favorite, just because, they're talking about how they construct worlds, and they're just like, you need to get out of the way. We need to set these things up, or we're putting, whatever through Earth, so Earth has to go by.
Wow,
and it's
maybe I
just-
should read that now.
It is, it's just like a tongue-in-cheek take on things, but then there's some elements of,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I
Where did that
love-
information come from?
Yeah, I love it. Just the thought of it, just that came into someone's mind to create that. It's very,
It's so interesting to me. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
That my dad was so into sci-fi and he watched all those movies and read sci-fi books out the wazoo, and I could just never get into them at all. I couldn't get into that. Now, I was interested in mysteries like the Loch Ness and Atlantis and the Bermuda Triangle and all of that, and Sasquatch. Fascinated by all of that. So I guess that's why. But it's interesting to me that I didn't want to read science fiction, and perhaps it's because I knew that it was on some level made up, even though it's probably inspired.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
Star Trek. I mean,
Yeah.
you're saying he was into Star Trek. You were not.
I was
into that
not
kind
into
Yeah.
any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean even
To
interestingly
me, it just
eno-
seemed far-fetched.
interestingly enough, I was a very big, Ancient Aliens fan. I still love Ancient Aliens. And
My husband cracks up at that. He's like, well, ancient alien theorists say
Right.
that's what we're having for dinner.
That's right. Exactly.
He
Yeah,
uses it for
the guy that narrates.
well, I'll get to
because they're
that.
never going to say no.
Right. So when this all started unfolding, I mean, for years I would watch it. She's like, "What are you watching? That is just, I can't,
Yeah.
ugh."
Yeah.
And
Because
then
I wanted the real stuff. I
right,
guess.
and then
I
the
mean,
Zeta came around through the channeling,
Uh-huh.
and then the whole contact with AT started coming around. And then ancient aliens all of a sudden became really relevant, right? It
Yeah.
all became purposeful. But
Those poor guys who study all that and just get,
poo-pooed and yeah.
you just got to get the good
Well-
opinion of people out of your mind.
pretty soon.
Well,
we'll
I
be
was-
vindicated.
I was telling Allison about the guy that narrates that. He also narrates another
The
show.
one with the crazy hair.
Well,
No,
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 the
that narrator guy.
the voiceover guy that
Oh,
kind
okay.
of leads in and all that stuff.
Was this really an ancient burial cave?
Right.
Was it?
Everything is always
Will
a
they really
question.
find-
I told Allison, I said, that's the guy, whenever I become famous, that's the guy I want to narrate my life. Everything's a question, right?
What's the other show he does?
Yeah.
Island, Oak Island.
Oak Island, yeah.
He does a couple of
He
others.
is the
Same guy.
one.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
So,
even
yeah.
realize
He's got the
that.
most famous voice, and nobody knows what he looks like.
Which
Exactly.
by now you think they would have found something on Oak Island.
Right? Thank you.
Anyway, we
So,
digress.
yeah, I talk back to him now.
I'm 10 seasons in and they're
Yeah.
still going. So,
Well,
Will
okay,
they
so
find the money pit?
Right.
No, they
going
won't.
back to and then you have people like Graham Hancock. And
Yes.
I don't know if people have seen his most recent, what was his ancient,
Apocalypse.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I found that
Yes.
absolutely
Yes.
fascinating because this poor guy has totally been marginalized.
Well, they're
And-
pulling his stuff off, you know what? So hopefully they're not going to pull this off for us mentioning it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I won't discuss his name further.
Yeah.
But
We'll have to bleep it out.
Maybe, yeah. I have to fuzz it out or something.
but it's ridiculous that here's this person who has he has come up with some pretty hardcore truth,
Yes.
and he's even got it more backed it up even more with these latest discoveries, and it's not just latest discovery. He's been working on these
Yes.
for a long time.
Yeah.
And I had actually been at that location in Poverty Point
Okay. Yeah.
in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And you walk around that place and you're just sitting there going,
What?
How?
the-
Yeah.
took place? What are they? Because there's this whole greater thing going
Yeah.
on there. And then when you see all of these similarities between all these different sites, how do you sit there and just go, "Ugh, well, it's just nothing, And the fact that, he gets that hardcore rejection of just,
You have
we're
got
not
to
looking
have
at
a
this,
thick
we're looking at this
skin.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but they just didn't completely denounce him, even in the face of what makes logical sense.
But when you think about the famous scientists or whatever, I don't know if it was Einstein or whoever, but all of these people were denounced when
Right.
they talked about theories of our solar system and all of
Galileo
that.
denounced?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they're vindicated hundreds of years later. So I mean, it is what it is. We
That's
first
their mission.
first we
Lay it out
ridicule,
there.
and then we
And
try
then
to
we
marginalize.
And then we act like we own it.
And then we
can't
act like we
stand-
knew it all along.
Oh, that's been around for thousands of years, millions of
Right.
years. We knew about that.
I don't
Okay.
understand it. I don't get that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
It's the games-
you always shoot the messenger.
It's the stupid human games we play, right?
Yep.
We have to. That's how we learn things.
It is. It is.
To take a, David Letterman phrase, the stupid human tricks. So yeah, that's dating me. Sorry.
Yeah.
For any of those who
I
remember
do
David,
miss the oldies. I
David,
do.
David Letterman.
Carson and
Yeah.
Letterman and
Yeah.
the old SNL. But that's
when
another
times
topic.
were simpler. No, they were always pretty challenging. We just didn't.
Yeah.
We just didn't know.
Well, this was quite the fun romp.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we
Yes.
covered everything we wanted to in this episode.
Yeah,
and
we
we'll
d-
probably
It is
revisit it
so
again.
hard not to dive in deeper or go down certain, pathways and.
Well, the book should be out this summer.
Yeah,
Shooting for maybe June.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But I mean,
exciting.
again, like Allison keeps saying, if there's a topic, like if we've covered something in this
Yeah.
in this episode
That you want us to go further on.
that you want to go further on, put it in the comments, reach out to us, and we'll see what we can come up with.
Yep. In the meantime, like and subscribe, and please share with friends that need to hear this information.
Absolutely.
Please.
Thanks again for spending your time with us. We so greatly appreciate you all.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.